Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Speak Your Truth, The Untold. This is Yana Positive, and of course we're in the series of First Love Yourself, F.L.Y. Now today we have changed our background. It's a more intimate setting because we'll be going into my personal experiences in learning to actually love myself. Today we'll be talking about bullying. It's a very common phenomenon in Jamaica, but it's not talked about the way it should be because it's a rather uncomfortable topic. And I'm just going to share with you some of my very own experiences with bullying. This started a while back, probably grade 1 or basic school. Don't quite remember. One of the incidents that stood out to me was actually when I was in grade 2, I think I came first. It was usually somebody else that came first and I was always second. And I remember that person, their cousin, said that, all right, because you came first, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna beat you up on the hill. And I remember taking a beating that evening because I came first. And if I went home with a second, my mother would be sorely disappointed and I would hear about it a lot. And this went on for a while until I remember that my last grade at that school, I was in about grade 4. And there was this girl in the class that she got a very low grade on the test. And I got a high score. And I remember her going to the teacher, and the teacher said, well, I can't do anything about it. And because she couldn't take her frustration out on the teacher, she took it out on me and she said, later on, I'm gonna beat you up. You know how children talk. And I remember asking her, what me do? And I was so scared, I was so frightened because I know I couldn't take on this girl. This girl was very athletic. She was built for that kind of thing. And little soft me with my little bone and skin couldn't do anything. And she said, I go beat you up later. And I remember waiting so long after school and I didn't take my usual route out. I took the back road out of the school instead of the front route. And she came by. Somehow she saw me going through the door and she run me down. And she just pummeled me with her fist. And I remember I wasn't fighting back, I was trying to get away. And eventually I realized that she wouldn't give up. And she had my school blouse and she tore it to the point where I was trying to run away and she was trying to hit me. So she tore my school blouse in that process, and I decided that I need to fight back. And of course I lost the fight because I couldn't go up against this girl. And my cousin partied and said, go home. And I remember some other experiences. I went to another school in grade 5 and I felt so relieved because I thought that it would be different. But then that same experience followed me there. One day we had a substitute teacher because my teacher wasn't there. And there was this little boy. You know, when little boys, in hindsight, looking back, he probably liked me. And you know, when a little boy liked you in primary school, they don't tell you that they like you, they tease you. So this little boy now liked me off and decides to tease me every day. And every day I would go to school, this little boy would box me, kick me, pinch me. And this day he was pinching me to the point where I couldn't do my work. And I remember turning around to him and saying, if you pinch me one more time, I go pinch you back. And he did pinch me and we're there back and forth, pinching each other, you know, little kids pinching each other. Him pinch me pinch him. And until the teacher said, you have detention this evening. You must write 50 lines. I must not fight in class. So I said to the teacher, how is it that I have detention when this boy was provoking me all along and everybody knows he's provoking me? And he didn't say anything and I have detention with him. So she decided that because I spoke out against, and probably she thought I back answered her, so she gave me 100 lines instead of 50. This is grade 5 me, no, primary school me. So you can imagine being a child at age, what, 10? You're not used to writing 100 lines in a book, especially something so repetitive over and over again. So I got my detention, and in the afternoon, this boy writing 50 lines, gone home, well happy. Him get the girl one next half an hour to stay with him. And I remember that the school was practically empty. By the time I finished my 100 lines, everybody had cleared out. Nobody was there for lessons or anything. And I think by the time I got to probably 70, 80, my handwriting failed. So I couldn't write as pretty as I did in line 1. So it was just some flash done something, because my hand tired. And I went to the teacher to show her that I wrote 100 lines, because you have to confirm before you go home. That's detention. And she said to me that I need to write over the lines 100 more lines, because I didn't do it properly. I didn't write it properly. And I remember saying to her, no, I'm not writing it over, because I need to go home. I live at Bush. I still live at Bush. And I can't get any drive to go home if I go too late. So I remember sitting down and deciding that I will not write any more lines. And she wrote a letter and told me not to open it and take it to my mother. Me, like idiot, fool yam head, go take the letter to my mother, knowing that my mother was a very strict parent. And I went and I did get some beating that night. So not only me get detention, not only this boy teased me in a class, but I got a beating that night. And that experience taught me that not a lot of persons that should stand up for issues like bullying stand up for issues, because sometimes children are the most vulnerable group, and when they can't help themselves, they need adults to step in. But there wasn't any adult to step in for me, not at all, because persons just see the issue and pass it by as, oh, it's an act of childhood, it's something that children grow out of, when they don't realize that this is what affects children mentally for a very, very long time. Even when I was an adult, it still affected me really bad. And one of those experiences also taught me that sometimes persons don't have an issue with you directly, especially with my first experience. It taught me that persons don't necessarily have to have an issue with you directly, but most times it's what's going on with them. So when persons bother you or bully you in life, oftentimes it's an insecurity that they have, that you're the most vulnerable person who can't defend themselves, that they can take it out on. So they do take it out on. And I remember in grade 6 as well, we had some small groups. So they streamed us in grade 6. Don't stream your children. But they streamed us in grade 6, and we were one of the the bright classes, so we were very competitive. And there was this group over on the door, near the door. They were like the really bright children, but they were the hot girls. Like the girl them wear short uniform, come to school on clocks, but them really bright. And in the middle was my group, which we were the nerds, but we weren't the hot girl them and the hot boy. Me and the boys' pants were big, my uniform did well long, so there was a separation, and we would always compete against each other. And we got this assignment for a religious class. I remember being so excited about it because we could incorporate some creativity, and I've always been creative. So I got the group together, And we formed a role play and we rehearsed after school, we practiced. So when we got to class, it was so perfected that we got full marks for it. And the other group did not get full marks because they weren't as creative. And funny enough, this girl in the group decided that she must take her frustration out on me. And even though I wasn't the only person in the group, she said, "I go beat you after school." That's a common line. That's a common line if you haven't figured it out by now. And I remember being so scared because me couldn't fight. Me tell them my little and my maga and me just puny and soft. Me couldn't fight at the time. And I remember my friend staying with me after school and Miss was saying, everybody had cleared out of the class and I didn't move, and Miss was saying, "Why don't you go home, Ayana?" And I said to her that, my friend said to her that, "Well, Miss Ayana scared because so said she go beat her." And I remember being so scared, and Miss said, "Alright, I can't stay with you all evening because I have something else to do. But go down by the guidance counselor office and they'll help you out." And I went downstairs, and instead of taking the route that I usually take, I changed my route. But it so happens that when I went around the back, they were there. I remember they were there and they formed a crowd and everybody was taking their hit at me. Who fi kick, who fi box, who fi punch. And somebody threw me. You could say they threw me a life raft. It was a piece of board. And I remember thinking throughout the fight that I don't want to hit this girl with the board because me can damage her. And instead of me taking up the board, she took it up and she hit me in the head with it. You ever hear people say them say blinky? Me say blinky. The day that me say blinky. And from that experience, I learned that even though I may have some sort of consideration for other people, even when they're against me, they don't have that same consideration from me. And that same friend that I had was nowhere to be found. Even days before, I remember our teacher giving us an assignment of identifying a friend that you have and one trait you love about them and one trait you don't like about them. And I don't even remember what the trait was that she loved about me. I just remember the trait that she did not love was that I like to fight. And it awed me that persons saw it from that perspective. It awed me that persons saw it from that perspective. Ayana loved to fight. Because here was I, in my mind, there's no way I would go up against 1, 2, 3, 4 persons, or there's no way I would want to fight someone that for over practically nothing. And there's no way I could know the end result and still do it. And I was there thinking that if this was really my friend, she would actually try to help with what's going on. But in her mind, I wanted this. And I remember going into high school, we didn't do any physical fights because it was more of a prestigious institution. But there were still people that wanted to push me around, bully me. And I remember being so upset about it until in 8th grade, there was one day that my friend borrowed some of my study cards. I used to write down my notes on little study cards, and it took me hours because this is how I learned. I had to write it down and then rehearse it to learn it, and it took me a long time to write all my notes for that term. And she said she would give me back a certain time, and she didn't. And when I asked her about it, she was like, "Yeah man, I go look for it." And I kept asking her and she was like, "Yeah man, I go look for it," until one time she was like, "Oh, I don't know where it is." I don't think I would have been angry if she had come to me and said that, I lost them and I'm so sorry. But it was the fact that she didn't care that I invested so many times in these cards, and here she was going, "Oh, I'm gonna lose them," like there's nothing wrong with it. And I got so angry. I took up, there was this big wooden bench that we used to sit on in school, and underneath it you could put your books and your bag and whatever. And I remember throwing it across the room. It must have been the adrenaline or something, but I remember just throwing it across the room. And from that day, it was a standstill for a lot of persons. It was like, oh, she really knows now how to stand up for herself. And I don't think you should just take up stuff and throw them across the room, right? But what I'm saying is that I have an unpopular opinion about bullying. And that means that you should stand up for yourself without betraying who you are. I remember the story of Jesus in the desert. He was there for 40 days and he was so hungry, and the devil tried to push him into making a decision that would have been the downfall of humanity. And he responded by saying, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." And it really goes to show that he was no pushover. He was not somebody you could just bully into doing something. He was somebody who stood up for what he believed in, and he stood up for himself. And that's what really matters, because a lot of persons in life, once they hear that you're a Christian, they expect you to be a pushover. And I've had many persons say to me, "Aren't you a Christian?" when they want me to do something I don't want to do. And my response is no. They go, "Aren't you a Christian? Aren't you supposed to do this?" Being a Christian doesn't mean you're a pushover. It means standing up for what you believe in and standing up for yourself. I remember the story of Jesus when he went to the temple. There were people there gambling in his father's courts. And he got so mad. He threw the tables over to show them, to make a statement that you can't be just doing every and anything in the Father's courts, in my Father's courts. And it was just an eye-opener for me, because a lot of times I've seen persons being bullied. There's this one boy I met back in the day, and he was being bullied so bad at school. He had broken limbs, he had scars, he had bruises, he had cuts. He was in the hospital a couple times. He had stitches because he went to a really bad school that fighting was a daily occurrence. And he was like, "I take it because Jesus took it on the way to the cross." Nonsense. That was Jesus's journey. He had to take that journey with humility. But all throughout his lifetime, he showed us that we need to stand up for ourselves and stand up for what we believe in. No Christian should be a pushover. Don't let anybody tell you, "Do this for me." And when you say, "No, I can't do that," "I thought you were a Christian." Most times, it's not about you per se, it's about how that person is feeling. Because many of these people that bullied me were people who had their own insecurities. So they saw that I was somebody academically inclined, and they thought it was a good way to pummel her because I don't feel that I can reach her level. So I really need you to understand that in order to get rid of bullying, if you're somebody, because it's not confined to the play field, it's something that happens in workplace with bosses and their employees, or with employees and their bosses. It's something that happens at school with maybe your group members want you to do all the work. It's something that happens at church. It's something that happens everywhere. And I think what you need to find out for yourself, if you're somebody who is being bullied, is to find out how to stand up for yourself without betraying who you are. And for the persons who are bullying other persons, I will say to you that whatever insecurities you're feeling that allows you to impose hurt on other people, you should resolve those insecurities before you harm anyone any further. So tonight, I just want to say to you guys, stand up for yourself without betraying who you truly are. Alright? So thanks for watching, thanks for joining in, thanks for listening, thanks for your support. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs a little encouragement, somebody who can relate, somebody who, just needs to hear this. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you another time in the same place.